The college football season is barely in the books, and we are just 3 weeks away from National Signing Day. Mark Rogers TV and Last Word on Sports breaking it down from the Nebraska angle, bringing in Jacob Jebsen from Last Word on Sports to help us out with the Huskers. Jacob, thanks so much for joining us. Let's talk about Nebraska football. We've had you on previously talking about the Big Ten Western Division. You expect Wisconsin to finish with the best class in the division, but Nebraska making some strides in recent weeks and finishing strong possibly.
Yeah, they have. They've really set up to have a big finish to the recruiting cycle. They kind of struck out on a couple of prospects earlier in the process, Tremaine Antrim, David Reese, etc. But during the month of January, they're set to host Jamal Ivy, Alaric Jackson, and several other top prospects, and they're looking to push to add at least 10 to 12 recruits in the final month of the season. And they're in good position with quite a few, actually. They're a JUCO transfer from Kansas, Jamal Ivy, decommitted from Oklahoma State, and now Nebraska appears to be in the lead. He fills an immediate need at defensive end where Nebraska was razor thin last year. Isaiah Simmons from Olaf, Kansas. He's a safety wide receiver, just a guy that you just want to get in the boat and figure out where he plays later. A tremendous athlete, and he's deciding between Nebraska and Louisville and Arizona State at this point, and Nebraska appears to have a slight lead. And then there's, of course, Matt Farniok, who's just the darling of Nebraska message boards. He's been Nebraska's top prospect since the very beginning of this process, and it seemed like we were kind of out of the race after we gave away the game to Iowa, but now we're right back in the mix and actually may have a slight lead. And so they've got the guys set up, so conceivably you can see them making this huge jump into the top 20, but we thought that was going to happen midway through the season too, and we lost Tremaine and David Reese to Florida. So we're optimistic in Nebraska, but we're a little wary if Mike Riley and his staff can really close this class out.
You kind of jumped on my next question there, Jacob, because that's been a bit of an issue with Bo Pelini's recent classes, and you could definitely fill us in a little bit better, where these Nebraska classes were that close to being really, really strong, and it seemed like Nebraska finished second on a ton of really close to elite players. So that's obviously been a concern in the past. Hopefully it doesn't happen this time around.
Yeah, well, with Bo, it was in the first couple of years, we were recruiting at an extremely high level. From 2008 to 2010, we were going to California, Texas, and Florida, and we were going after the big guys, and we were getting a few of them. But then we just we missed out on a few top prospects. Like I remember Olamagbe Odigizua chose UCLA over Nebraska, and that was a big recruiting loss for Nebraska then. Then they lost Devin Fuller to UCLA. And then it just kind of seemed that Bo and the staff became more content to, instead of swinging for the fences, so to speak, they were just content to kind of hit singles and get guys that they knew they could get that no one else was going after. And so we went from recruiting at a top 25 level to recruiting at a top 40 level. And you saw Nebraska just kind of slowly regress to the kind of the talent level they were at this season. And so Mike Riley's been refreshing because we're going after the top guys that we can go after, and we're bringing in a few of them. We've lost on a couple, but we're going to bring in more than we lose, it appears, this season.
Yeah, and that's part of the strategy and the tough call to make. Do you go after the 5-star guys, the high 4-star guys, and like you say, swing for the fences, pour all your resources into going after guys that you're probably going to hit maybe 300 versus hit more like 750 and getting a lot of those 3-star guys. Patrick O'Brien, an interesting prospect out of California. Mike Riley obviously has a penchant for developing quarterbacks. Tommy Armstrong's coming off a 16 interception season, so Husker Nation has to be excited about this signing.
Yeah, the only way to describe this season watching Tommy Armstrong, it was like you were riding a roller coaster with no brakes, and the armrest didn't go down. It was just nonstop, up and down, and Tommy Armstrong, he almost ran out of time after the Iowa game. Nebraska fans were ready for him to be out after he threw 4 interceptions and really torpedoed any chance Nebraska had to upset the Hawkeyes. But Armstrong, he bought himself time with the Foster Farms Bowl. He played a tremendous game against UCLA. He took care of the ball. He ran when he needed to. He didn't force throws. But Patrick O'Brien's the future. Nebraska was the first school to offer him, and then he just exploded on the national summer camp scene, got to the Elite 11 finals, and ended up placing in the top 10 there. And we ended up getting his commitment before UCLA and USC could jump in on him, and he ended up being, I think all 3 recruiting sites have him as a top 10 quarterback recruit in the entire country. And he enrolled a couple days ago, so he's going to go through spring ball. And I don't think he'll start as a freshman. I think it's Tommy's job, unless Patrick O'Brien's just head and shoulders better than I thought he was. But O'Brien gives us now a fallback option if Armstrong continues throwing up his YOLO bombs and throwing 4 interceptions a game. Because this year we didn't have that. We had Riker Fife, who is a kid that he gives it everything he's got. He's a walk-on from Grand Island, but the Purdue game showed that he's not a Division I caliber quarterback because he threw 5 interceptions against a Purdue defense that is not very good.
Yeah, no question about that. And I think you would agree that one of the keys in the Foster Farms Bowl is that Tommy Armstrong threw the ball less than 20 times. So the ground game was exceptional in that game. Obviously, Tommy Armstrong had a nice game, but a limited role throwing the football. Obviously, recruiting 2016 signing day right in front of us. But for those people that know the grind of recruiting and that it's always in flux, 2017 is right here, and it's part of the process even right now. So can you fill us in on what we can expect on down the line?
Yeah, they've got a really promising class shaping up for 2017. They got a jump on 2018 because I guess that's just how Mike Riley rolls. They brought in a kid by the name of Cameron Jurgens for 2018, but in 2017 they have a group of 4 kids coming to unofficially visit on the 22nd of January, and there's the Calabasas trio of Keyshawn Johnson Jr., Darnay Holmes, and Tristan Gebbia, and a really talented kid out of Battle, Missouri by the name of Javon McQuitty. And the cool thing about the Calabasas trio is that it's being led by Keyshawn Johnson Jr. And pretty much the number one reason Nebraska got in on recruiting Keyshawn is that his father, the legendary Keyshawn Johnson, was coached by Mike Riley in college, and he believes that Mike Riley is one of the best coaches he's ever played for, and he has tremendous respect for him. And so that allowed us to get him in the door. And that Calabasas group, I believe they visited Nebraska, I think 4 times now. And Nebraska already has 1 committed in free safety Marquel Dismuke, who's very good. And he's pushing the whole trio to come join him. And they're all top 100 recruits. I believe Darnay Holmes is actually a top 10 recruit right now. He's one of the most coveted juniors in the country. And they're guys that, when I say swinging for the fences, those are 4 home runs that if Nebraska can get them in the boat, they have a class that's already would be in the top 5 for 2017 before it really even starts.
Jacob Jensen, last word on sports, breaking down Nebraska's recruiting class. Signing day just 3 weeks away, and also setting us up for 2017 and a little bit on 2018. Jacob, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Go Huskers.